What's going on, everybody? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. It is Monday, the start of a new week. This is Holy Week. This is Holy Week. Easter's upon us. I hope you all had a good and safe weekend. Hope everyone's doing okay, and especially your loved ones. Looking forward to starting this session here with you. Since it is Monday, just going to wait a minute or so. Jesse, John, everybody, great to see you all. There's a lot to discuss today, especially in light of what's going on this morning. What's going on? I'm only going to give myself another minute before I start flowing into it, and before we start getting into the charts, because there's some stuff to check out here with risk on, putting on a little bit of a rally. See what kind of setups that opens up for us. How we're going to play this. At the same time, there's a lot to discuss. There's a lot of important stuff to discuss. So we're going to get into it. Gabe, Jasper. All right. Here we go. We got the opening bell ringing here. S&P's up almost 4%, hit 4% up overnight. What does that mean? We got risk on today. You can look over here. This is a 1 hour chart. Look at the top over here. You can see this area of resistance, right? That was support, resistance. That's where we are butting up against right now. We will see as price consolidates over here, whether we make another leg up and come in and test up towards this area of resistance, or if we drop back down to about 25.35. That remains to be seen. Why do we have risk off? Why are we seeing the Australian dollar, the strongest currency, followed by the New Zealand dollar? Why is the yen the weakest? Dollar maintaining pretty firm bid, probably because the yen is giving up a little bit here. We've seen a decline in cases over the weekend. Numbers reported out of New York were finally showing a reduction. The same in Spain and Italy. The question is, and this is really important, everyone. So before we get into the charts, we need to figure out what is going on. Listen, it's not just all about TA. It's TA with a twist of fundamentals, the most important thing here. So what we're seeing is the risk on environment, because it seems that possibly there's a bit of daylight. We could see this thing peaking around the world. Listen, from my experience, what happens is over the weekend, especially on Sunday, cases are underreported. There's probably less people working. Cases are underreported. All right. So I personally, I don't buy it. I want to. This is supposed to be the worst week, by the way, in as far as the U.S. People are aware of the reports that this is, they put it our 9/11, our Pearl Harbor week. Look, I want to get into Bill Gates over here, because Bill Gates seems to be the puppet master behind all of this. But he's basically saying here, I highlighted this, some jobs will resume. He's talking about in the fall. Some jobs will resume. Schools will partially resume. But we'll have to be very careful not to have the rebound until the vaccine, my vaccine, the one that's going to make me a trillionaire, comes. All right. Look, in China, they saw a little bit of a rebound, just a little mild. But the thing is China has obviously, who knows what the real numbers were in China. I've heard they could have been 40x from what was reported. That's probably what I buy. But what the thing about this is that they were using some pretty strict measures that were not being used and are not being used elsewhere, which means if they are receiving a second wave, what's going to happen after we beat the peak? It's going to be a while before things get back to normal. We're going to look at this euro US dollar chart over here in just one moment. All right. The reason I bring all this up to start is because of the very important reason. Steve, Sherifu, Amir, Patrick, what's going on, everyone? The reason I bring it up is because we have risk on today. Is that going to stay? Is that going to maintain? There's some pretty tasty setups, perhaps. Let's check them out. Here we have the Australian dollar, Swiss franc. I'm starting here because this is a risk off trade. Next, I'm going to get into the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, Australian dollar, US dollar, right? What do we have here? We have price on this uber bullish risk on day pulling back into resistance. For me, it looks like another opportunity to sell. All right. I'm going to be watching closely over here. I'm still holding a short. I haven't been stopped out yet. I'm still holding it. I don't like it that it's not falling into profit, but I don't exit a trade before it hits my stop loss. I don't ever exit a trade before it hits my initial stop loss. All right. I don't ever exit a trade before it hits my initial stop loss. Why? Because if I do that, I'm just getting myself out of good trades. I did my analysis for a reason, and I got into the trade for a reason. I need to be proven wrong to get out of it. Listen, even if we do today, let's see what happens, whether or not this fades there in New York or not. If we don't, we're coming up into some heavier resistance. That's what I want to watch. That's what I want you all to watch. What happens here this week? My base case remains things get worse, not better. I think we're headed towards a depression, not a V-shaped recovery. All right. Let's see over here also on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, because it's a similar thing. Yep, right into the resistance right now. All right. Watch both of these over here. And we'll see what develops over here. Again, for me, it's always a signal that this is being rejected is when price starts making lower lows than the previous price bar. Before I jump into the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, I want to look at the DXY, which is still firm right up here. All right, it's right around the 101.80 to the 102.20 area that I get concerned whether or not that's going to be an area that she could push through or not. I'm just going to draw in a little bit of a blue box because as we come up in this area, right, into that pocket, I'm going to be a little cautious. Why am I going to be cautious? Because this could be an area that she reverses. I'm very bullish on the dollar, but in a heartbeat, I'm willing to change my my opinion here. Especially, it's not going to be straight up and straight down, but it looks firm here this morning. I think that's largely due. Of course, the euro is trading down. We can get into the euro in just a moment, but the U.S. dollar, Japanese yen is the weakest today, and U.S. dollar is pretty firm. This looks like a mess. So let me zoom out for you. But the US dollar is definitely stronger than the yen today and coming up into an area of utmost importance. This blue line over here that's my bullish bearish line. Above it is bullish, below it is bearish. You'll notice one other thing here. If I zoom out for you, you see that yellow line? That's the trend line, 5-year trend line. We tried to break out twice, both times rejected with a lower high. All right. And now we're coming back up into this area of utmost importance. Are we going to be rejected here? Tomorrow, Japan declares a state of emergency. Are we going to be rejected over here and come back down and revisit? Get below this support. Let me push this down a little bit now because you can see the touch over there and then the bottom over here. So 107.03. Get below that. I am and will be strongly bullish on the Japanese yen. Until then, right now, I'm neutral. I'm about to go bullish. If we get back above, third time could be the charm. Let's see what happens here with the dollar. But today, yen is weak, dollar strong, dollar remains pretty bid. Before we look at the euro US dollar, I do want to look at, first of all, the pound is maintaining. Pound is pretty strong today. It's unchanged versus the dollar, but that's pretty strong, meaning that the dollar's got a little bit of a bid to it. If I drop down to the 4-hour, you can see this is now resistance. And it looks like the possibility here that we are rejecting this resistance, start making lower lows over here, and we can gain some momentum. This is one to watch for this session for the next 12, 24 hours. Right here, the pound US dollar is live, and it looks like that this support here has been broken and is now testing successfully as resistance. We start resuming down. This is the take profit area down over here. Sashan, stay safe over there, please. Please stay safe over there. I am currently in Mexico, and the same exact thing. The numbers are rising here. The numbers are being heavily underreported. There's a lot of movement around, which leads me to believe that this is going to get worse. And here's the one thing. You can see that they're looking to restrict travel. Eventually, travel is going to be restricted. heavily unless you have the Gates Foundation, immunity digital certificate that allows you to travel. But listen, until that happens, there's people in worse areas and better areas, and there's a lot of movement going on still, and this thing is spreads really easy. Uh, Finally, before I want to look at the Australian dollar, US dollar. Where is she? And where's my New Zealand dollar, US dollar? Here's the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. And let me zoom out over here. I want to get off the 4 hour. I want to pull up. Remember, this is the strongest currency today. Look how it is made a higher high than than Friday's price bar, getting back above that local, which was just resistance on Friday, now support, right? So this looks attractive to me. You could still see we have a series of lower highs. We're in a downtrend. I'm not believing the hype that things are getting better yet. I think April's going to be a bad month. The next 2 weeks are going to be pretty bad over here, and then from there things even get worse. Are we in a recovery? Is anyone looking for a recovery? Well, the markets were pricing in earlier today. I see big, heavy resistance over here that some of you took this sell over here, and that's been a good trade. Once you got back above this line, it was time to take profits on that. So right now you are neutral, waiting for one of two things to happen here on the New Zealand dollar, US dollar. For this little area, this yellow line to be given up, at that point, it's time to sell. Or for us to rise further, We got some local resistance over here at 0.599, right? That looks, in that little area over there, that's a place to lean into with heavier resistance over here. So for me, this is a retrace on a little bit of hopeism that I think is really ripe for digging in here on a reversal. Got to wait for the reversal though. All right, same thing here on the Australian dollar, US dollar. Let me check out the daily time frame here for a minute. Again, same exact pattern, nothing else to say. This is getting above that area of resistance. All right, so by the end of today, maybe that could be marked as support. If you look here on the 8 hour, you can see you got the heavy resistance above price. This was an area for profit taking, right? Those who took short over here. All right, she didn't keep falling, came back up. Got to get a little cautious over here, but this is in play. Pound US dollar is in play, New Zealand dollar US dollar is in play, Australian dollar US dollar all in play. Look at this beautifulness, right? Right into this resistance here right now. If this resumes back down, this is beautiful trade right here on the Australian dollar, US dollar. We have a lot of things to look at. We have Bitcoin, we have gold, we have the euro, US dollar. I see look at this. Look at this breakdown. Gabe's all over this. This is the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. And look at this. Here was that support. Once the support broke, I'm going to look on a daily, on a 1 hour. I don't even think you had time. This is one of those, look at this. Why I say look at this is because once the support broke, right? So sorry, excuse me. First of all, you could see the support I had touching that line down there, right? It's fuzzy, right? Where do you put it? If the support was up higher off the bottom of these bodies of these candles over here, which would have been touching over here, this is an art. It's not a science, right? I could see that this was a poorly drawn support. If the support was up over here, you could see these touches, and then you see these touches, right? That makes more sense. Then what you see happened is, and it's not always so easy to get perfect in real time. It's absolutely not. But that's why you go ahead and you readjust and you review. You gotta rewire these neurons in your brain in order to be able to see this in real time. And then you see the breakdown and then the retest, right? This is the 1 hour time frame. See what that looks like on the 30-minute. It happened so fast. There's no way I ever would have got into this trade because I don't play the straight breakdown. But since it's broken down, nice riding that momentum, Gabe. Since it's broken down, you've come right into that support, and that support held. That's why we have there. So this is an area now. If I were holding this trade, which I'm not, if I were holding this, what I would be doing right now is first of all looking for a reversal off this support to know if I take profit, and or at the same time giving it just enough room. So I would be up here. If price traded above this high over here at 1.08207, right around there, that's where I would take profit. Otherwise, I'm giving it this room to break through this support also, because if it breaks through this support, let's see where we're going. Then we're coming all the way down here. That becomes a beautiful, beautiful trade, right? So there's a lot of momentum right there. Is this support going to hold? I hope so. I mean, I hope we go back to risk off. But if it doesn't, and this support here breaks, this trade, which is a beautiful trade already, becomes a home run. So that's how you manage a trade. So we got, I want to check out the euro, US dollar. I want to check out Bitcoin. Market's coming back now this morning. Again, if you just put in a little bit line over here, if we get above it, at that point, it looks like that this leg of consolidation might take us back up to test over here. If we break down below, we're falling back down, I would assume, towards 25.35. Right now, price is consolidating. Since the markets are opened, we're about 16 minutes from the US equity markets opening, and they're trading pretty close to the highs of the day. They're trading pretty close to the highs of the day. Bitcoin is having a pretty nice day, joining in the equity rally, the risk on rally. And you can see here, technically though, this looks beautiful. And that breakout over there, it always held above the breakout and now is extending upwards. This is my area that I'm looking at. Again, this is the triangle before the liquidity crisis happened and we broke down out of this triangle. I never expected us to break down out of this triangle. Had we not had a crisis, I do not think we would have. Bitcoin is up, let's see, off the lows, almost 100%. And now we are coming up towards an important area, because if Bitcoin could get back above this trend line, heading into the halving, it's pretty bullish. I mean, it's not pretty bullish, it's uber bullish. What I expect is going to happen, or what I'm looking for happen, is on the burst of this trend line, is for us to come into this support area, this resistance area, or this one right over here, right? One of these two, somewhere between these two resistance areas, and then come back down and look for a successful test of this trend line. If that successful test holds and we resume upwards, then I think the bull market has begun. All right, so let's check out what the DXY is doing, because I am watching for signs of a reversal. All right, because why? Because this is our fourth day up in a row so far, right? And listen, you can't go in one direction forever. Would it be super healthy for us to come back down and test this area of support? So either that's going to happen. We're neutral right now. We are so neutral right now on the dollar. We're between this support and this resistance. All right. Equities maintaining that bid, and dollar giving up slight gains. Let's look at the euro US dollar. I'm going to lean in over here. Here you go. First of all, on the daily. First of all, on the daily, you can see that this support is so far holding. Not only that, well, this is a sign of a possible reversal, so I got to be pretty alert. Why do I say that? Because you could see that we came down, took out that low. You could see that right there, right? Took out this low. Looking at a 4-hour time frame. Yeah, I want to go back to the 4-hour, but first let me start on the 8-hour. You can see here the low is taken out, and now if we reverse upwards, right, that's a sign that this support over here held. And I like when they take out stops and then reverse the other way. So why short? I'm super cautious right here, and I'm going to be monitoring this. I'm just going to put an alert right around here. Okay. I think that should be a little lower. Put it right there. All right, maybe that's 2 pips a little low, but that's right where, if that happens, then I want to consider exiting my short trade here, locking in profits, and then looking to see if we trade back up to this resistance and seeing if that resistance holds or not. That would be pretty much in line with the DXY coming down and testing that support. Now, back to the Euro US dollar. I saw a helpful little pattern that I want to share with you. And that was over here on Forex Live. And you can see this little, this is the 1 hour. This is the 1 hour time frame. You can see this little channel over here that we're in. All right. This is on the 1 hour. And so that's pretty helpful. What they have breaking out of the channel would be at 1.0820. All right. So I have right there, that right there, I have mine alert in a little bit higher at 1.0825, 27, right around there. And that's when I'll consider getting out. But you could also see over here, this is why this is such a helpful chart I wanted to share with you this morning. You see also this little trend line over here breaking out. Then you come into resistance right over here, but that's much higher. Where do they have that at? That would be around, I'll call it 1.0855. I have my resistance up much higher than that. All right. I just want to compare here for 1 second. My resistance is coming in closer to this dotted line they have over here. I think that's where they have the 100 moving average. That's where my resistance comes in. So dollar coming off over here. Risk is really hitting on here. S&P's up now. Breaking out of this morning's consolidation and up 4.5%. Pretty big move. Pretty big move. Dollar giving up its gains over here. Markets are becoming active. Let me check in with all of you. Thanks for the thumbs down. I do appreciate the love. Appreciate you popping in here, taking the time to go ahead and share that negativity inside you. You know, God love you. Appreciate you. All right. So I'm seeing definitely, as we're about 20 minutes into the session. By the way, I think it's a light calendar this week, but I do want to check in with you really quick and just to confirm that. I don't think there's anything that I saw on the calendar that was really of note. Doesn't make sense. All right, see, these are off by an hour then here, because it's 9:53 Eastern time. So tonight we have rate statement. They're expected to be on hold out of the Australian dollar. Let's see whether or not that bullish momentum in the Australian dollar goes into that, and then if it continues. This is a big deal, OPEC. And then what do we have? I just don't think these numbers, whether it's employment change in US or Canada, are so relevant. Everyone knows that they're utterly terrible. I don't think it's an important week for the calendar. I think all eyes are more importantly on what happens with the situation developing in Spain, in Italy, and also in New York. So we're seeing everything a very mixed right now. When I say mixed, the US dollar is mixed right now. What else is interesting out there that I wanted to share with you? We're seeing yen pairs come off. Look at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. All right, this is becoming interesting to me. The higher we get into this area of resistance, the more attractive to lean into at this point on the sidelines. But again, I'm coming from the perspective that this is going to have severe consequences on the economy, and that there's nowhere even close to being out of the woods yet here. If I'm wrong here, then I'm going to wind up being very wrong, because I'll have missed an amazing place. Does that look like a reverse head and shoulders to you? But do you want to check out gold next? So is this a left shoulder, a head, and then a right shoulder? I mean, it could very well be, right? So as much as that, I mean, it looks like it to me. If we get above this trend line over here, we got that resistance there. I can't say I love it. I don't think that we're beating this thing. I'm not gonna fall into this trap. And if I miss it, because I mean, if this does hit and this is a reverse head and shoulders over here, you're looking at coming back up here as the target, right? That's a sick trade. Not only that, then it opens up then both sides. We'll revisit it. Revisit it. Let's check out gold right now, though. It's hard when you put your bias on things, but you kind of need to put your bias on things. How about that one? You got to have a thesis, right? So what's interesting here is that we are seeing Anita pointed out in the comments from the weekly Forex forecast and analysis that we're looking at a reverse head and shoulders here as well. What's interesting is as the risk on came off into the market, gold is exploding higher, right? Which makes me believe, which definitely this is worth talking about. When we do beat this thing, right? Until we beat it, there is the possibility that we have the dollar shortage roars and lifts his head out again from the shadows, and that puts pressure on gold and silver, and even Bitcoin. Now, once that it seems that we've gotten out of the woods and the recovery phase is headed, uh, I would expect gold and Bitcoin to really, really, really shine. Why? Because there was a lot of money printed during this crisis. You know, just call it 6 trillion alone out of from the U.S. Right, and there's going to be more. So once the liquidity crisis is gone, are you going to see that that sharp appreciation come in gold and Bitcoin? I believe so. Is this a reverse head and shoulders? And if it were, where's the neckline? I can't get a neckline in here. Anita, if you're here and you're watching and you have a chart you could share with us, please do. I don't know. It's a tough one for me as we're coming into this resistance over here, though. This area of resistance. I said I was going to get pretty bullish if we got above 1646, but I'm not. So I need further clarity here. And I don't have it. And when I don't have it, I have to stay away. That's what that Yazbek, the 100%. That's exactly how I see it. So right or wrong, I don't know. Whether we're right or wrong, I don't know. But that's the way I see it. This if this was higher and then you could come down and draw in a neckline, that would add up and made sense to me. Um, I you know why I'm very unclear. You could hear it by my voice as we're coming up here and we're taking out any stops. If this winds up rejected, I actually do like it to the short side. Ah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's see what's going on there, Blair. And then before we look at the Euro Japanese yen and get into it, I'll pull that chart up right now. I want to see if you have a link. Look on X. Yeah, I think you have a good chance of hitting that. And then Anita, the thing is, if you if you do get above 1700, listen, no one's going to be surprised if we take out the 1900 level easily, the high of the past bull phase, right? So gold is super tricky. Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, is going to borrow in yen this week. Wow. Wow. So we were talking, well, we weren't talking about, we were at that 5-year trend line breaks, right? On the US dollar, Japanese yen. We've seen some calls by Kyle Bass, by Brent Johnson of Santiago Capital, and Raul Powell of Real Vision for a conservative $150 yen, right? Over 200 is the real call. So Warren's getting involved over there. Listen, Warren's looking right now really, really, really astute for holding all of that. What is it, 120, $140 billion worth of cash while the market was trading at its all-time highs. Watch Warren when he starts putting that capital to work. Then you have the sign of the bottom. When Warren Buffett starts putting his money to work, that's kind of like the all clear that we've seen the bottom. So watch out for that. His move right now, and I want to just pull that up so I have it as a bookmarked. There we go. Might be betting. Wait. Betting on the yen? No, if he's borrowing in yen, he's betting against the yen. If you're borrowing in yen, you're betting against the yen because then you come back and pay off in dollars as it gets weaker. So that's interesting, right? You want to follow the smart money. Over here you have euro, Japanese yen, and what do I see over here? Well, yen is weak right now, so the euro's making some gains. If you came back into this area over here, I think this is where it would first get interesting. Let me make that resistance a little stronger and actually turn it red. When you came back into this area over here, this would be the first sign of possibly heavy resistance. That's heavy resistance. You could see over here it was resistance and then a support. So this area over here at 119.62, if we trade up there, then that's an area to lean into the shorts. Right now, it's a question of how long this risk off phase, risk on phase lasts. But ultimately, well, I can't say. The trade was up here. Now we're down here. It's very fuzzy for me, and there's a lot of there's a lot of supply to the upside over here, and some pretty strong support down here to the downside. So I don't like it at all. I don't like it at all. DXY is still maintaining its gains, but definitely pretty mixed on the day. This could be a reversal day. If we start making a lower low on the daily, that's the signal now at this point to get out of dollar trades and then look to see what happens at other area. Right now, still holding long. Yeah, it's tricky, Anita, but that's how, I mean, right? That's where the money's made. So this is, so tricky or not, let's look at it really quick. Let me look at it on the 8-hour because we're at a really important line over here. This was the area of resistance, and if this closes above this resistance today and becomes support, then it becomes a little bit easier to trade. Why? Look for that retest. Hopefully we get a retest of the broken support resistance. If it holds a support, then anyone long this trade right here, where to lock in your profits, right? Below that new support. At the same time, if we close below this over here, well, I think that opens up the possibility of looking to sell over here, as this would have been a false break, and then we could see some further momentum to the downside. What's tricky about gold is this environment is made for gold, and we could see we're going to eventually see much further upside. But timing is everything in trading, and there's a lot of room here to be wrong. You got a pretty huge range of 300 $300 almost, $260 over here. We're towards the neutral area, but now leaning bullish. Today's close will be pretty important on gold. We got 52 people in here today. I just want to say to everyone that I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you all. And I really, 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 really do gain a lot myself from everything this community offers. So I appreciate all of you. I have a pretty clear, not easy, but clear view of what's going on right now in the markets. Reza, what's going on? And yep, S&Ps we could look at also. So right now, this blue line over here, this was coming into New York. This was the highs made during London, and then during New York, now we took them out over here, right? I have the next area, it's this whole area, whether you call it from 2640 to 2628, this is the area of resistance. We break above there, and then we could go as high as 28, 2920. If we break above this area of resistance, we really could see some gains here, right? All the way up to 2811 and 2920. Now, this is going to be a pretty bad week in the US. They're expecting lots of deaths, the situation, to continue to escalate. It's difficult at these levels to be long the S&P for myself. I think this is a place to look for a reversal and to lean into the short side. Ultimately, I think we come down and not only test these lows over here, but break them down to the downside. But there is sharp momentum this morning. We're up 5%, almost 5% here, and so you got to wait for that momentum to turn before you dig in over here and start thinking of getting cute. That's where we're at, as the markets have now been open 47 minutes, and right now I would say New York is pretty mixed in the FX. DXY is pretty much unchanged. US dollar, Japanese yen, yen is seeing further weakness, right? You're seeing the dollar definitely come back up. This is an important level. Japan declares state of emergency tomorrow, so I suppose that's already priced in. Whether or not there'll be any type of surprises, that remains to be seen. By surprises, I mean any announcement of any type of stimulus. Thanks, Martine. I do appreciate the love. Definitely do appreciate that all. So gold is, we'll look at your US dollar right now because it is very clear to trade. So gold, by the way, I got to just put up another tab here so I come back to it later, because is that such an area that if this gets rejected, I am interested in getting short here on gold. And I don't want to talk anyone out of their trade by any means, because I would not be surprised if not only we test the 1700, but if we break it, and if we do break it, man, we could see 1900 pretty quickly. So we wanted to look at the Euro US dollar. Euro US dollar is pretty clear. I have an alert over here at 1.08244. Okay, if we trade above there, what I do notice this morning that happens in the Euro US dollar is this. Martine, I see that this was the support over here, right? This was the support there again, touched again. Today we made a lower low, and now we're trading up, right? So if we trade above this area I have over here at 1.08244, I'm exiting my shorts, and I'm going to wait to see what happens at this resistance, whether I could reestablish them. But when we make a lower low and then trade up, that's a possible reversal signal for me. right? So if we take out the low and crash down, then the momentum's taking me down, right? But if we take out the stops here and then trade up, that's a sign that it's a near-term bottom, right? And this is an area of support, leaning in over here. You got this support, so it's possible we bottom over here. Uh, if we trade above this area, 1.08244, I'm just going to get out of the trade, take profits, and wait to see what happens. If this resistance holds, I'll reestablish a short. That will also look like on the DXY, that will look like us coming back down towards this area of support, right? So because on the DXY, step back a second here, right? We're neutral right now. Resistance, support, bullish bias, but neutral. So I would not be surprised to pull back into this support, right? I don't know if this trend line is still relevant. I'm going to keep it there a little while longer to see if we get a test of it. So Euro US dollar is a little bit clear because I know where I'm wrong this morning and where to get out of those trades. Ermin, definitely. It's a little tricky. Why is it tricky? Definitely got clear resistance over here. When I saw things falling apart on Friday, I took a short here. It gapped down pretty nicely and then traded up. I exited the trade, small profits. Why did I exit the trade? I exit the trade because it appears that later this week, Saudi Arabia and Russia are going to come to some type of production cut, and I think that will be near-term bullish on oil. Right? It's possible oil is able to trade up. Is it possible we close this gap? If we close this gap and trade at $40, right? I think that's where I would look to possibly reestablish a short. In this near term, when we have OPEC meeting this week, I think it's better just to kind of stand aside right now. I don't know how the market's going to react leading up to that event. It looks to me that there is a strong possibility we come out and take out Friday's high at $29. And if we do, I think then, 33.81, 36, all of those are possible within the next 10 days. I wanted to lean in over here and short this, but because the thing is that even if the Saudis and Russia come to some type of like near-term agreement, because it's not good for them to have oil trading down so low either, right? And they're able to push oil up, $10, that still crushes US shale oil. Oil's not, shale oil is not profitable under 55. So I just wouldn't be surprised to see higher oil prices in the near term. And after we get this event out of the way, then I think that it is, if we close this gap, that's the first place to look to short this thing. And then even up as high as 44. Those are two areas that it becomes attractive. It's not attractive right now. TA aside, we're into, TA alone, we're into resistance right now. This is where I look to short on Friday. Things have changed fundamentally. I'm just out waiting. All right. And I think with you got OPEC meeting on, tentatively, it's a very moving situation. But they're going to meet this week. They're probably going to come to some type of near-term cut. And I don't want to be involved. Dollar selling off a little bit. I imagine it's versus the euro. Still watching this. I like those dollar euro trades. I'm going to go ahead and just put those stop losses in where I have those alerts so I don't have to watch this. And if I'm wrong, I can just get out. Now, since New York though, we're trading down a couple of percentage here on crude. It's just not clear right now, and anything could happen. Anything could happen with OPEC meeting. For me, it makes more sense to stand on the side. You're seeing the euro definitely putting up a little bit of a battle. Euro is actually now positive, unchanged on the day, right? DXY is still maintaining this little bit of an area and or fight. We haven't looked at the US dollar Canadian dollar yet today. Let's take a look over to see what's going on over there. Canadian dollar making back some nice gains versus the dollar. You could see that it's very neutral. I'm going to take out this little area of support and or resistance right now. The reason I'm doing that is you can see that price is consolidating over here. So I like having this area, these two yellow lines, right? As long as we're in it, we're consolidating. We're dead neutral right now. There's no edge whatsoever. If we do get firmer oil prices, that could definitely be priced into the Canadian dollar, and it's possible we firm up. Now, the closer we get down over here to this support, then it becomes attractive to watch how price reacts, because longer term, I'm expecting a weaker Canadian dollar and a stronger US dollar. But we have to wait. Right now, it's just completely neutral. There's nothing to do and or edge, and that makes sense as we're in a bit of a holding pattern, because oil is definitely a factor in this pair right now. Nice. Let's pull that up. This was supposed to be on gold over here. Nice look on that. Gold is up pretty strong on it. So it's no, gold is maintaining, right? And trading right above that resistance right now. What do you need to see on gold for this to be a failed breakout here to the upside of this resistance? Well, the best sign that you could look at here would be a daily close, right? Always look for the daily to know if you have a close above or below resistance. And the second thing that you want to look at over here is show that patience. There are some times where you get a breakout of broken resistance, and then you never get a retest to that broken resistance as support. That happens 5% of the time, right? More or less. That's not an exact number, but roughly 5% of the time, where you never get that retest and the trade just goes without you. Okay. Usually there's some type of fundamental high impact news event going on in that moment when things like that happen. Right now, the other thing is, if you get a close above here today or below it, then most likely you'll get a retest of that broken resistance, see if it holds that support, and that's a nice opportunity to get long. If we close below it, then we say that was a failed breakout, and then you can look for the resumption downwards to get in. Right now, it's best, if you're not in a trade, to be on the sidelines over here. Everything's dollar's mixed on the day. It's completely unchanged right now. Your U.S. dollar is up pretty healthy versus the yen, which is weak versus everything else. We're seeing in this risk-on environment a lot of the previous gains just being given back. Is this a time to be calling the bottom? It looks like the market's trying to do that. I'm not yet willing to do that and or follow it. That's what I'm seeing possibly happening on the Euro US dollar. And to make it easy, I'll have that alert in there. And that's where I know that that's the first sign. And also, we looked at over here Forex Live. There was a nice chart of that, Martine. This is a really good guide for you. That's really important headline there, is because everything is range bound. But this one right here, Martine, if you pull up this link and you see this channel, right? Right now you're inside that channel. you break out to the upside of that channel, right? That's when you want to get out of a short or take a long. But while you're in there, you're still in there. So if you pull up, if you go to here, I'll just include that link inside the chat. Pound, Australian dollar. I'm gonna check out on the daily time frame. It's been a while since I've checked in over here. So Reza, if you have a chart, if you go ahead over here and hit that camera link and take a snapshot, and then go ahead and just go ahead and include not the first part where it says trading view, but this part from the X on, and include that in the chat. I'll go ahead and pull up and look at what you're looking at over here. But I don't see much going on. I see that obviously the Australian dollar, which is the strongest currency today, taking back some gains. This is an uptrend. This is a beautiful uptrend. And right now, it still remains you buy support in uptrends. Where is the support? That's the question that needs to be answered. And, that's the question that remains to be answered. Mima, happy Monday. Listen, another piece of important advice here is, things are a bit DXY is unchanged. The euro US dollar, is still down on the day. Don't get whipshawed around over here. The only things that are clear, S&P is clearly up 5%. Bitcoin up. Australian dollar, all risk on, really up. Don't get whipped around. Yeah, we'll look at the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. We started off with the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, and the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. New Zealand dollar here is taking out some stops here now. Look, we've taken out some stops here now on the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. Still remains. And after the close here, I'll go ahead and set this to now support. We have now, this remains. I do not, Mima, watch later the beginning, the first 15 minutes of the live stream. When you get a chance today, watch the first 15 minutes because it gives an excellent overview of the current situation of the markets, of what is going on with the virus and how that plays into everything here. But we're in a downtrend. Look, we've taken out stops here now. So now the next thing to look for is whether or not this continues to hold through the rest of the day and we get a close above it. If we don't, then it's possible to step in. This is supposed to be a bad week, right? Especially in the States. And if we climb up into this resistance, then it's another look. But my stop is now hit over on this trade. And I'm still looking now to reestablish a short if and when it develops. All right, still a lot of trading left in the session, and things I think look like they're going to get really, really volatile into the London close over here. Risk on assets continue to have a lot of momentum. Dollar maintaining mixed, right? You have to be cautious of the euro US dollar putting in that double bottom, but it has not yet, right? That's the line in the sand up there. Um, I do apologize. I'm going to take a 2-minute break here. All right. I do apologize for that. We did have a bit of an emergency and just need a little bit of assistance. That's all. So I do apologize for that. Imran, what trades are you interested in? What charts are you looking at? I'm happy to help you walk through anything right now. I'm holding US dollar Japanese longs and euro US dollar shorts. Of course, I'm long Bitcoin. I don't think we've looked at the pound US dollar yet this morning. And this is a really interesting level to focus in on over here. By the way, this is actually broken support. This broke down on Friday. Why is this interesting? This is interesting because we broke down here on Friday. We're coming up and testing this now. You could see that right here. This is at actually just leaning against this 4-hour price candle during London. If it breaks one way during New York, that might provide a really good entry, because either we're going to regain this support, right? This was support broken. We're testing that support to see if it holds as resistance. If price starts making a lower low, then it looks like that the resistance has held and we should be resuming down. First to test this little bit low here, and if we break it, then all the way down. Of course, you got some noise over here to work through, but either way, this is resistance right now that's being tested. If it fails, if this resistance test fails and this support is regained, then we're coming back up into this area. So this is a pretty interesting development here on the pound US dollar at the moment. I want to track gold at the same time. That's a fantastic question. Imran, it's like we read each other's mind. I didn't even notice that you wanted to also look at the pound US dollar. Yeah, so this is a really important question, right? As a learning trader, how do you train your discipline and not get fear of missing out? This is a really great question. We'll take a look at it right now. And so one of the most helpful things you could do, listen, really important that you do understand that you do not want to get FOMO'd, right? Fear of missing out, right? How do you do that? One of the easiest ways you can do that is go ahead and pull up the true trend indicator, right? Go into scripts, go add indicators, just pull up, true trend, add the true trend, conquer trading investing. And then you have over here, there's a video on the channel that explains how to use it, but you have this blue line. This blue line is showing current momentum, okay? A lot of traders, what happens and what they do is they go ahead and they buy, like price is rising right here on the euro US dollar, so they buy. But one of the easiest things you could do to prevent yourself from being FOMO'd is never buying when the entry CCI is pointed overbought above the zero line. It'll prevent you from chasing after momentum, right? Or vice versa, never sell when it's already oversold. That's going to prevent you from chasing momentum. Now, if you trade off of support and resistance, in the description of this video is a beautiful video on support and resistance. If you trade, go back here to the pound US dollar, right? Here I know right now that price broke this support, came back down, is now testing this resistance. Why do we always trade off of support and resistance? Because first of all, you'll never FOMO off of support and resistance. It's the safest place to trade because you're always able to define your risk and you're always going to have a favorable risk to reward. If this breaks down to the downside and I take this trade and I have my stop over here above the high, I have a 1-to-1 risk reward just into the first local support, right? So as soon as that happens, I could lock in my stop to break even. Now I have a free trade. If this breaks down, the risk to reward overall this is probably about a 1-to-4, 1-to-5, right? Trading off of support and resistance will stop you from chasing after trades and also give you a good risk to reward. Actually, if you always trade off of support and resistance, you're going to at least have a 40% win rate. You're going to have favorable risk to rewards, and you will be a profitable trader. That's the best place to start. So S&P my thoughts on the S&P is that this move is hugely overdone. This move today, we're up over 5%. We've defeated not only the virus, but the economy is going to be okay, because the economic consequences of all of this slowdown, of all of these lockdowns and quarantines, is not a big deal. the Fed has stepped in and everything's going to be okay. I don't believe that for a second. We're coming back into this area now of resistance. This looks like a good place to get short over here if price gets rejected. Now, if we do trade above this area of resistance and successfully retest and break out, we could go much higher. We could come up all the way to 2811. I don't think we get higher than 2800 if we get up that high, but it is possible. It is possible we come up and trust all the way up to 2900, 2920, and or this sloping trend line resistance. Now, near term, we got a lot of work to do to clear above this resistance. This was so far during New York, we're trading above this consolidation. This is super bullish, but you're into this area of supply right here. If this fails during this session today, that would be the first opportunity for those who are really aggressive and want to try to pick a top. I don't generally like picking tops. It's really a bad way to make a living, not a comfortable way at least. Now, if we do get below this area over here, the lows from this looks like, pre-market New York, start making lower lows, at that point, it looks like then we're going to come down and definitely, then I think we'll see much lower. I think that we're going to see an escalation in numbers today. I do think that, that this risk on market, I don't know how much. I think it's an opportunity to reestablish risk off trades. That being said, you cannot fight the momentum, and there's strong momentum to the upside. You got to wait for the reversal. Yeah, it seems perfectly, I saw that also in Vancouver, right? All the storefronts boarded up, everything's closed for business. Actually, New York's having a little bit of problem of looting going on. But the real problem is that, in the US they do really, there's a lot of outreach, a lot of, town pantries that do really good job in helping out to feed those in need, families in need. You're seeing a lot of places that used to feed the homeless. You're seeing a lot of people that that had jobs, whether it was a barista at Starbucks or whatever whatever the case was, these people are having to come for assistance now. And this is the problem. This is, at the very earliest, you're looking at mid-May of things, people kind of returning to work, but that's not going to work out either. So market could do some funny things though, right? So if you break out above here, watch out. This thing could go up higher than we expected. Let's check in here. Euro, the dollar coming off a little bit here versus the yen, and still maintaining a down day versus the euro. I still think that for some reason, because after the first 45 minutes, things got a little quiet, that things are going to get pretty volatile sometime in the next, I don't know if it's the next, hour and 20 minutes or what, but I'm looking for it. So I think this is a day to watch, to wait, to be patient, to, as we pulled back in risk off trades, but are coming into some pretty strong resistance. Look at the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, right? This was a beautiful resumption off the resistance, and now you're held up. Here's right above there, right above Friday's high. If I was in this trade, which I was not, I would have taken profits. I would have said, okay, I only got so much. That's probably 70 pips in there of profit. It was pushing much further and had the potential to go much further, but now you're pulling back again. So now I am stalking, waiting for the opportunity to get short here. This is an area that I want to attack. I want to attack with the dollar versus commodity currencies, whether it's the New Zealand dollar, US dollar, yes. Australian dollar, US dollar, yes. Are we seeing the bottoms on these things? Again, I don't think so. If I'm wrong, I'm going to miss out on some of the biggest profits that could be made during this year as they were on the downside. But I think we're going to see retests of the lows. And again, I, you know, and it's not, is that, I see a depression on the horizon. I see a really, 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 really terrible half of 2020. Are schools going to be reopened in the fall? I guess some of them will be. I think there are two types of people right now in the world today, and there are those that believe that relatively soon things are going to be back to normal, and that there are those who believe that things will never go back to normal, to the way they were. I'm in the latter camp. I don't think that we will. This is a new normal that we're going to be entering. Look, Bill Gates is intent on everyone getting his vaccine and getting digital certificates so that they could then be free to travel again. It's a new world. It's a world where, just like in 9/11, we have lost a ton of freedoms. Everyone doesn't even realize or know it yet. Um, but a new world is now upon us, and I think it's going to be, you know, I think it's going to maybe in 2022, you know, 2023, maybe that's when we're going to be seeing a legitimate recovery. I'm waiting for so Warren Buffett. You shared this, right? I am so I'm bullish on the dollar long term here versus the yen, and I'm undecided on what goes on with the yen versus, you know, commodity currencies, for example. Um, Tomorrow, after the Japanese declare a state of emergency, I want to see if they do announce some type of stimulus plan in conjunction with that. That could short term weaken the yen. If the yen is weakened short term, I then am bullish, and I'll look for places. For example, on the Australian dollar, US Japanese yen. Uh, you know, what happens if this is a reverse head and shoulders? What happens if this neckline breaks? What happens if there's some type of announcement tomorrow that we get short-term weak yen? Up into here, I become very, very, very. At that point, I'll look to fade this. You know, if this is rejected over here again, yes. Look, this safe line over here. There you go. Start trading below that line in the near term. Okay, then I will get bearish on the Australian dollar, Japanese yen. Right now, I am cautious, and I want to be on the sidelines. Warren here is betting that the yen is going to weaken a lot, right? Warren is borrowing in yen. That means he expects. Mark Cuban did the same thing in 2013, right before the yen went from more or less 90.95 to 125, right? And, you know, so Blair, this I don't know. Yeah, and the Canadian dollar, because those economies run off of commodities. The Australia is a big, big, big mining mining country, right? Especially in gold. Canadian big oil. Now, New Zealand dollar is definitely much more of, well, goat milk, right? Is that their biggest? I believe goat milk is their biggest export, and with 5 kids, we've actually bought a lot of it. But New Zealand dollar also fits into that category as well. These are economies that run on commodities, and the Australia, I could also, I guess, place into it the housing market, right? The appreciation of the housing market. I have a lot of charts up here that I actually want to come back to. A lot of interesting things going down over here. Also, you could see this. This is something I think that's live for this session over here. I'm going to pull up gold right now. And just give me 1 second for this page to load. All right, so for gold right over here, this makes this pretty easy actually. And why I say pretty easy, you could see us taking out this resistance level over here. You got to wait for the close here on the daily time frame. There's still a lot of trading left and a lot could happen. And right around, right around this time, they're notorious for coming in here and hammering gold with just an unreasonable amount of paper being sold against it. So this is a place not to FOMO, right? How do you trade this? You all know, first wait for the daily to close. If it's above it, then you wait for that pullback into resistance, broken resistance, see if it holds that support. And if it resumes upwards, all right, then I think we're testing 1700. If we break 1700, listen, we could be off to the races. However, if we don't close above this resistance, and this was a false break, I think it's an opportunity to look in here to sell gold coming into later in the day. So don't FOMO here. Gold looks uber bullish. It has every reason to be bullish, right? With the amount of stimulus. But today is a risk on day. Funny that gold is acting as a risk on asset, but that means basically what this means is, all right, everything's going to recover. And what we need to factor in on go back to 2008. After QE was instituted, after we came off the lows, that's when gold went on to shine. If there's any type of further dollar shortage, any type of liquidity crisis, gold is going to get hurt, right? So gold's not out of the woods yet. Today you saw a risk on day. So gold then is factoring in all these printed dollars that need to go somewhere. And guess what? They're going to go to gold and Bitcoin, or precious metals and Bitcoin. I think it's a trap. I think this is a trap. Be aware. Be aware that this is a trap up here and don't get caught into it. Wait for that confirmation. Wait for the close today. Let's see if it's above or below resistance. And then from that point, we'll see how we could trade it by looking to see if we do get that pullback into broken resistance, see if it holds that support and resumes upwards. I don't see the head. Anita does, and I highly respect Anita's view. And we could have it. And also, she's the one that's long here, and she's well into profit. Now, the reason I don't see it is because if this was a left shoulder, this was the head and the right shoulder. Well, I'm sorry. We're looking at a reverse. Oh, do you see that on the up? Hold on. We could have both sides, right? If this was a head and shoulders, that's not a head and shoulders, right? Where's the neckline? Down at 1300. On the other side, this is what Anita is looking at, and it could very well be. At least structurally, you could have the, at least, I'm sorry, the left shoulder is too low for me, right? Because if the left shoulder was higher, then you could have this neckline, and then I would say that's a reverse head and shoulders. Because this left shoulder is low, I don't see it, although that does not mean at the same time that you're not getting the same structure that you normally would with the left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. And it doesn't mean that the same dynamics are going to take place. It could be. It's just not clear. It's not clear at all. Seeing the dollar firm up a little. Over here, you might have an incoming signal to look at. Boris Johnson, I'm not sure. I haven't received an update on him since he went into the hospital to take some tests, and hopefully he's doing all right. Doesn't seem to be weighing on the pound at all. This looks like an active signal, possibly about to trigger here, though. It does appear that that dollar strength is creeping back in a little bit. Lots of charts here to pull up with you this morning. Let's take a look over at the Euro US dollar. I was pulling this up here for a reason. I did forget. But let's look at the Euro US dollar. Yeah, seeing the dollar firm up a little bit. Yep. Coming down, looking to challenge the lows again. Let's pull up the 1 hour. Martine, if you're listening, this is why the alert was set up here to lock in profits. We don't know what's going to happen yet, right? All signs were that we were going to see a double bottom putting up here, and we still might. If we trade above here, that's where I have my stop losses in at 1.0827 is exactly where I have my stop losses in. But until that happens, I'm still riding this short. I would love to break down over here, but let's not get too emotional. We have no idea yet what's going to happen. Still too soon to call that one way or the other. Again, I'll include this link one more time. I think this is a really good look at the Euro US dollar this morning from Greg, which is why I shared it. And we're in this channel on the 1 hour. Okay. So you have places here where to lean in, places to take profit. If this breaks to the upside, time to get out of those longs. Oh yeah, no, I'm the biggest crypto bull there is, the biggest. And but at the same time, although I am probably one of the most bullish people there is on Bitcoin, um, I am aware that if we hit, again, I was talking about gold, and the possibility exists that we could hit another dollar shortage, that all the actions, the swap lines have not been enough. We're going to see that dollar shortage really kick in. We could see much lower prices on gold. I saw that happen here on Bitcoin. Hey, listen, the one thing that Bitcoin has going for it that gold does not is that Bitcoin in 40 days is about to have its daily supply generated cut in half. And if you think that that doesn't affect the price, you think that the demand for Bitcoin is also going to be the daily demand for Bitcoin is also going to be cut in half. I don't think that. That would be crazy to think that all of a sudden, the demand for Bitcoin would be cut in half, but the amount of supply generated daily is going to be cut in half. So that's going to get factored into Bitcoin, after 40 days, sometime within 1 to 3 months after that, right? Or immediately, but it's going to be factored in. So Bitcoin's got a lot going for it over here. But at the same time, we could see if we see another dollar shortage, and hey, listen, it makes complete sense that that could affect Bitcoin again as it did this time. And so, although I am quite bullish on it, I am also, and now until this crisis is over, will forever be cautious about what could happen, and looking at when appropriate to hedge my downside risks. There you go. Sidelines is always a great place to be because eventually things become very clear. And when things are clear, yeah, so a line by Jim Rogers. I didn't really understand it at first. Jim Rogers is quoted as saying, basically what he does is he just waits until he sees money sitting over in the corner and then goes over there and picks it up. But the thing is if you're not waiting, if you're not on the sidelines, you'll never have the opportunity to see the money and go pick it up because you're just always, on the wrong side of the trade, actually. So patience pays. Absolutely, Roxana. Do I'll pull it up for you. Absolutely. I am 100% with you. there are two videos there that are absolutely really, really important for understanding the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin. That's the Bitcoin halving prediction video. That video will explain in charts super clear the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin. And then the other video that's really important to watch is where will Bitcoin peak? Where will Bitcoin peak during the 4-year cycle? And where would I sell? And that's a really good one to watch. What price will you sell your Bitcoin during the next bull cycle? Both of those, for anyone who's not really an expert on the 4-year cycle, watch those videos and you will be close to being. We're not really seeing the dollar, I think, coming out over here. Here's a place to step in over here against the pound. All right. And again, I'm going to watch gold. There's a lot going on today. It's a lot of moving pieces, and it's Monday, right? We see a lot reversal Tuesday. So be careful about that. Do not FOMO into today's moves. Actually, I think today's moves are moves to watch, to possibly to fade. Makes it really easy here. Tomorrow, again, I'm cautious on the on what happens on the yen tomorrow. And this makes it very super easy. Actually, I'm going to add an alert above that line, below that line. That's where I would get interested over here, right? Instead of trying to be preemptive of moves, it's a little bit smarter to actually wait for that confirmation, for that price confirmation to get into them. Yeah, so Martin, that's a really good question. We'll take also take a look, which we haven't yet today, the euro, Australian dollar. So why does Bitcoin still trade on the weekend? So Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are finance 2.0. They are the new financial system. Finance 1.0, only trades, you have pre-market and after hours, and then you have between 9:30 and 4 p.m. And then you had FX, which was trading basically 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. But crypto, that is run on the blockchain, and the blockchain doesn't have an opening and closing. Every 10 minutes a new Bitcoin block is produced, all the transactions are verified, running on all the nodes, and there's no open and or close of the market. The market's always open, so therefore Bitcoin is trading 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And this is something that is one of the reasons why it's so attractive. There are no bankers hours where, like, you can't get your money because the bank's closed. No, 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 no. Bitcoin's always open for business. Trying to pick up the euro Australian dollar right over here. The euro New Zealand dollar is similar, put in a really strong move as well. I was watching this trend line over here on the upside. And then on the downside over here, this line of support, which is now broken. We were looking for a breakout, which we now obviously have to the downside. And, in this breakdown, there was never a place to enter the trade because, well, here's a better look at it actually. You have the breakdown of support, which should be over here. You had the breakdown, and then this was the retest. So yes, if you were a day trader, which I am not, you would have had the opportunity to watch for the breakdown of the support. Here was the retest, and here at this low was the place to get short, which means if you're a day trader, you also would have been taking profits as you came down here and tested this low over here. Now, a swing trader never had an opportunity to get into this trade because we've broken down this support and are only coming into this area of support. I don't like taking trades. This is going to be resistance now. I don't like taking trades that are so close to support and resistance. So there's no play now for me on this trade. A day trader could have got into this trade. For me, nothing right now. You know, if we do break back above the upside of this trend line over here, this blue trend line, that's a place to get long over here. As far as leaning against this support over here right now, I'm not interested, only because you have this resistance now, and this is pretty big resistance. This resistance is pretty strong. So I wouldn't want to buy this if we started resuming upwards off of this support, because I'm coming into resistance and then trend line resistance. There's too much overhead resistance for me to look to buy. What about to the downside? We got to lose, and this should be up a little bit higher. If we lose this support here, if we lose this support now and then get a retest and it holds as resistance, okay, that's a short I'm interested in taking because there's enough downside to give me a good risk to reward. Dollar's still kind of just maintaining. Everything is in this like holding pattern. Everything's in a holding pattern except for the S&Ps. So Bitcoin for me personally, Martin, is definitely similar to gold. It needs to be a core portion of your portfolio. Best to hold Bitcoin, store it offline, store it away from your house, store it safe and secure, and just really hold on to that. I look at, although you could trade, if you go back to those playlists I showed you, there's definitely a way to trade around this, the 4-year cycle, the bull and bear market phase of it. And I think that is the best way to do that. So as we get closer to really important places and times where you should be doing that, I will be highlighting them. But at the same time, I think that you need to be thinking about a 10-year period of holding Bitcoin, right? Like you, you buy physical gold and you plan on never selling that. That's insurance, right? You plan on passing them down to the next generation. You know, for Bitcoin, you want to be looking to hold this for about 10 years, possibly trading around that 4-year cycle, because there are also bear market phases during that cycle where Bitcoin is expected to come off, you know, on average 85%, which is a huge, so you don't want to hold it all the whole 4 years. You want to trade around the cycle. So the easiest way though for someone who's like not so involved. So first of all, you get back into this triangle here on Bitcoin, you're super bullish, leading up into the halving. You break this when you break this triangle to the upside. This is going back to the highs of December 2017, and then the other high we put in June of 2019. This trend line, once it's broken to the upside, that is the confirmation that the bull phase of the 4-year cycle has started, and you could get long. So it's much safer getting long, you know, above 10,400. 10,400 was the price I predicted we would be at in 40 days, right? Let's see if it happens. Obviously, things changed once we entered this crisis. But 10,400 is where Bitcoin is actually fair priced at the halving. And then once you clear above that, that's where you want to be long. So if you want to wait, right? But Jordan, that's like, you know, 30% higher. Yeah, right? But it's safer. So if you want to, like, I would tell my mom to buy it up there. At the same time, I leaned in down here. I got some 42, 52, and 6,000, right? But you know what's safer and what's safe and what's, you know. Look at here for the pound US dollar. Excuse me, it's down here towards the bottom. And then the 4 hours. When I keep this chart up, as we just got a sell signal for me over here. Tight stop. Know where you're wrong. Gold I'm going to be checking out on the close later today. Australian dollar, Japanese yen, I'm watching and tracking, but I want to be on the sidelines going into tomorrow's Bank of Japan state of emergency and see if they actually do institute stimulus. Warren Buffett being bearish on the yen, you know, hey man, you got it, there are certain things Warren knows and certain things he did. He knew enough to be into cash when market was overvalued. He didn't know enough about tech to buy Google, Amazon, and Bitcoin. And the euro, I can leave this for now. DXY is simply mixed on the day. Watching to see if this is a place to go ahead and take profits on the euro, and whether or not this is a near-term double bottom. Listen, the DXY has been pretty bullish ever since it broke out here of this little triangle we were watching. It would be nice to see if price were to come back down, test that breakout, and then continue and resume upwards. I do not want to hold the euro if it's going to go ahead and it's going to trade higher. I'd rather get back into some resistance up here or even up here. Um, things don't go straight up and straight down. So definitely an active day. Why New York, except for the S&P, is a little bit in a holding pattern. Let's see if that continues over the next hour, which I do not think it will. I think we will have a chance of seeing which way the dollar goes today in the next hour. So I opened it up to all of you. If there's I've shared my thoughts on what's going on with the bigger picture as far as the virus. We know how and why risk on is being priced into the markets today. Trump started Sunday's press conference by saying, the numbers are coming down in Spain, numbers are coming down in Italy, numbers are coming down in New York. A lot of people on the ground in New York said, hey, wait, that's not true. From my experience, watching the numbers every weekend, the most underreported day has been Sunday in Europe. So let's see what happens today. I hope to God we've seen the peak. I think it's still 3 to 5 weeks too early for that, and it looks like that we've seen a possible second phase starting in China, which is worrisome because although they'll probably be able to have it under control more than anyone else, we will not be able to do the same in the Western world. So if anyone has any thoughts on that, I'm definitely highly interested. I think it's the most important thing going on in the markets right now, as well as if anyone has any other pairs that they see a setup on, want to take a look at, and or any other questions to discuss. Now's the perfect time. We have about an hour before New York goes to lunch, and I'm still interested to seeing whether or not we get a little bit of a decisive action here on the euro US dollar. So the euro Japanese yen came up earlier, and actually, well, it's up 0.5% as well. I was gonna say I have to lean in here. Let's go ahead and put in this little line over here. I think this was a beautiful, you can see over here, this was the support, then resistance, resistance, and now it held as support as you were zooming off of. So staying above that line, definitely I give this a bullish. You can see also that the dollar is stronger than the yen today than it is versus the euro, although stronger than both. A little bit mixed versus the euro. And so that means that the euro is stronger than the yen here. Staying above this line, you have to be bullish bias here. What is interesting over here, though, is that this is a place to come in here and limit risk. So I have to say I'm definitely a little bullish bias here on the euro Japanese yen at the moment. Hanero, good to see you. Hope you had a good weekend. We actually didn't take a look at the pound Japanese yen as well. So the pound US dollar looks to me possibly short trigger right over there. This is trading into resistance. I'm pretty, it's very mixed to me because, well, look at that. That's beautiful. Look how that trend line held. Look at this. This is actually an interesting setup over here, folks. Look how this trend line held over here as support. If we get back above this resistance here, pretty bullish, right? You got pretty bullish above this resistance area over here. You got a couple hundred pips up into the nearest resistance, and then we could see what happens from there. Pound Japanese yen for a swing trading perspective starting to look pretty attractive. Get below this trend line. Got to get below this trend line for me to get bearish once again on this pair. That yen weakness led by Buffett. Let's see what happens tomorrow as they declare a state of emergency. DXY turning negative now. But unchanged on the day. We have our line in on the euro US dollar to know where we're long. Shareful, appreciate that. I'm glad. Listen, there was a period of time. Martine, have a beautiful day. God bless you too. God bless everyone. There was, oh man, well, Janero, why? Thanks be to God, we are safe. 5 little kids in quarantine. Woo! I did. That was after he just said a few weeks ago that he wouldn't sell it. And even Buffett has a stop loss, right? And he just got stopped out hardcore on his airline stocks. Listen, you got to take your loss when you got to take your loss. What we were just saying. Oh, Sherifu, there was a period recently, right, where we were in a crisis. Not that we're out of that crisis. Market trying to price in today that we're out of that crisis. All right, we're in a crisis situation and things were different. It was not, setups were not there. Look at this bleeding. This was, I only held from here to here. I thought, right? There was nothing else to do, right? If it was a different type of trading, so therefore the whole feel of our live stream sessions was therefore also altered, right? Coming back now into more of a rhythm, more of a general swing flow, more opportunities, live stream changes. That's the market. The market's ever changing, flowing, pricing information. And depending on what's going on, that's also going to affect what goes on with us as well. I'm glad we're back into more of a quote unquote normal state of things. And not only that, now we have that awareness that, listen, again, that dollar shortage could come back in at any moment. And there, I wish we could have those vitamin C IVs though that you've been privy to. I really wish we could have that. No, I mean, they're the best. Absolutely love them. Absolutely love them, and they are. You don't have no idea how well behaved our kids are. We got 4 kids under 4 years old, and one of just about to turn 7, and they are. They, it's a lot of dishes to wash, a lot of cleaning up to do, and a lot of playing going on. But we are blessed. Antonio, let's take a look at pound Australian dollar. Um, if you have a chart, Antonio, please go ahead. And I don't have any lines drawn in over here on the pound Australian dollar. If you do have a chart, go ahead and hit that camera icon. Send me the back half of the link from X on. Is this area of support? It's not clear. The one thing that's clear about this pair though, right, is this support, the tops of these bodies over here. It's jumpy and choppy over in this whole area. But if you step back over here, I mean, you are in a uptrend, right? Buy off support and uptrend. Is this the support though? I don't know, right? Do we have more risk on? Is Australian dollar still going to benefit? I don't know. It's not clear to me, but I see what you're looking at. Right? It's not clear to me, but I see what you're looking at because maybe on a smaller time frame, it's easier to get a little bit better of a look. It's not for me. You're coming into this area over here, but it's so messy for me. Antonio, if you have a chart and could share that link with us, if it's marked up a little bit better than mine, I would be really interested in to see it. For me, this is there's a choppy wave, right? I'm sitting there looking at the set of waves coming in, looking for that nice wave to ride, and not that there's not opportunity here. It's just choppy for me. There you go. Thank you, Hanero. That is the New York session right there. Oh, I wish I could highlight that comment, and that's the truth. Gold is going to be an interesting close today. I want to watch gold later in the day. If anything develops, well, I'm going to give a clear look at it after the close of New York later today. Dollar New York session is completely mixed. Let's go look at a small time frame here. Let's look at the 30-minute time frame. You could see there is no edge to the upside or downside. Right? Let's wait for a break. And now, as Hanero did point out, spot on, is now not the time to be looking or taking setups. But it is, as we're now approaching 2 hours into our session, and I did like the flow also, Sharfu, 100%. A good time to call this a session and wrap it up for the day. We'll be back here. We'll be back here though at 9 o'clock tomorrow, a half hour earlier at 9 o'clock Eastern time, back to our normal time as we get in a half hour before the U.S. equities open up. I look forward to it. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.